Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future Space. I'm your host, Daniel Fox. Our guest today is Nicolas Gaume. Nicolas is the co-founder and executive chairman at Orbite, co-founder and CEO of Space Cargo Unlimited, and head of strategic partnerships and international expansion for Microsoft Azure Space. Nicolas,
Extension
welcome.
team.
Oh, yes, extension
Yeah, do you
team.
want to do it again? I'm fine. And then, sorry about that, Daniel. I shouldn't have said.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is a new title, so I think I'm allowed to do one mistake. And
You are
Nicola,
absolutely
welcome.
allowed. I couldn't do what you just done, so I'm very all good.
Well, I'm reading it on the computer, so I don't
Sure,
want
it's
to
like
stumble too much.
the captain pilot checklist. It's cool.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the Future Space. I feel like you and we have so much to talk about, and our philosophies align so much because we've talked about the human experience, and a lot of things that you're working on reflects that. But before we get into all of it and your recent position at Microsoft Azure, could you share with us three words that capture the essence of space for you?
I think that it's very much the ultimate human journey, which is probably either one word or a sentence, but I don't think it does qualify to what you asked me to think of. But I think that human is the first topic. I think I really go to space because I love humanity. And I love planet Earth because it's the place we live in, and we should be much more respectful than we've been. In many ways, what I love about space is both the human realization of how fragile and how beautiful it is, as much as I believe an opportunity, which will be my second word, to find solutions for the future. I mean, I'm quite excited about what microgravity has to offer for amazingly important, pharmaceutical solution for our future, agricultural solution for our future, and I'd be happy to share more about what we do at Space Cargo Unlimited. So opportunity, and we look further down, you can find obviously resources, rare materials we can't and we won't be able to find on Earth anymore that we can find outside in space. So that's the second thing. The third one I think is more of a dream. I mean, we've been through a lot as a human species. It's sometimes a bit dreadful to see how little we learn from our years of history and of challenges and difficult times. And I think that dreaming of a better future, leveraging the environment that space has to offer to project humanity in a better dynamic is something I am quite excited about. But at the end of the day, just human is really the main word. I really think space is to have a better future.
Well, I think that this is what these new destinations, these new frontiers offer to people, right? It's a opportunity to start again. When people left Europe and risked everything, embark on a ship, they were not even knowing if they would survive, get into a new continent, and then start again. It was all with the intent of starting new, and often at the opposite of what they leave behind. In space now, it's that new place. A lot of people are looking up and saying, all right, we've created a lot of things, and America is, I guess, the youngest culture, but now it's maturing to its kind of peak of capacity to innovate and to start fresh. And space is representing that new destination that can offer to a lot of people to say, let's take the best that we have right now. Let's go and create this vision, this world, so that we can elevate everything else. Because this is what North America also did by creating this new future. It also elevated the entire world. You've spoken much about the human story, but my second question is, beyond the science and technology, what do you think is the human story of going to space? Can you elaborate a little bit more of what you just explained about your choice of words?
Sure. But nevertheless, I want to insist. I mean, I think that the ability to create the drugs we need for tomorrow, finding the resources we need for our human society tomorrow, are really significantly important. But nevertheless, when I said human, I'm not an escapist. You know, I'm not I'm not with the idea that we'll find a better life on Moon and Mars. I think it's much more the journey. It's much more the ability to realize what we have here. And I've talked to a lot of astronauts who've experienced the overview effect, and it was a very moving story. Actually, that's really one of the core reason that we started Orbite, is to help people be elevated in a way that makes a difference. I think that's, when we are plunged into what humanity offers in the worst possible moments, in the moments of war. We're going through the moment of tensions that we have worldwide, and unfortunately the moment of scarcity in terms of natural resources we're entering, and climate change, which is dramatic. We should elevate ourselves, not like fight each other like we often did throughout the pandemia. So I think that, I rather see the ability to look at Earth from space as getting further down to what it is to look at the landscape from a top of a mountain, or being in the middle of the ocean. It's really this cognitive shock that gets you to extract yourself from your daily routine, the challenge you face every day, and really think deeply about what it is. It's in a way, it's very spiritual, and at least that's what I tend to see. So, moving forward, I think that the word needs not more bigotry, but more spirituality, more pragmatism, and on the other hand, less cynicism, and more faith in us as a species, and also acknowledgement that we're really accountable for all the other species and the environment we have on Earth, and how our responsibility on what it is we did with massive expansion, and with the climate change challenges we created for Earth and everything on it. So I really, interestingly enough, I feel that there are solutions that can be found in space, but also think, again, this path to space is a way to better appreciate what we should and will have to do here.
I mean, that's the journey of traveling and the perspective and putting things in context. When you're born in a village and you're surrounded by mountains, your understanding of life is horizontal. And then you climb on the mountain and you look back and you see, oh my God, okay, now I understand the relationship with everything. Here's our village. Here's the river, the forest where I go hunting. Then you get into a plane, and then you start to look down and you see the perspective of, oh, look at this estuary of the river, all these different shades, and it's dynamic and all that. And now we're going to space, and we get to experience the overview effect, coined by Frank White. But now we see the context of the planet within the blackness of space, how everything, all our stories originate from this planet, but also, how the scarcity of this life, and then that awakening of, perspective. Then obviously no one comes down unaffected. I mean, there are levels of how transformed you are. I don't think that everybody who's going to go up will have the same kind of experience. Like, not everybody that goes up on the plane will have exactly the same experience. But it's that seed that you plant that now has shifted the boat a little bit, and that you will never be the same person when you come down, and all these effects will just kind of spread. Is that a similar understanding that you have?
Well, Daniel, you're much more eloquent than I am, and certainly I absolutely love every word of what you say.
Now, you have an interesting background. You started, I understand, more in the gaming, and now you're fully dedicated into the space world. Can you share with us a little bit about the journey of young Nicolas to today's Nicolas? Was space always an attraction for you? Was it something that was calling you? Or how did you end up to where you are today?
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in the southwest of France, in my family hotel, who was run by my dad and my mom. And just to put things in motion, it's in the Bay of Arcachon, which is in the southwest of France, near the town of Bordeaux. And there's a sand dune, which pretty much is well, it's the biggest sand dune you have in Europe, and it's really quite a stunning environment here, and there's no light pollution. So from the very early age, my parents were working hard, as you do when you're in hotel hospitality, and I would step out, walk on the sand dune, and watch the stars. And in all fairness, that's such a powerful strong call for anybody. I'm sure, and a lot of your listeners, I guess, will reflect on that. So, start to learn how was the name of the stars, and then because I was from the early days a geek and a tech lover and a science lover, started to absorb everything about space, about also the human journey into space, and so that really something that grew. Now I really started coding, and when I was when I was 8, 9, I was fortunate to have one of my game, which I did when I was around 12, purchased by a game company. So, it kind of grew in my mind that as a teenager, I could make a living out of the game industry, which was obviously as a gamer and a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, a passion. And I created my first startup when I was 18 because I was reading all these stories about Silicon Valley and what have you. And, we was quite fortunate to have quite a ride, ups and downs. Eventually I got 7 startups in the IT, digital tech world. Half were consumer focused, half were business focused. All of them, honestly, I was always driven by 2 things. One, which impact we have on fellow humans. So, when you make games, obviously you want to make sure you entertain your customers and everybody using your games in a very successful way. As much as when you do anything that is more functional, more corporate related, you want to make sure you fulfill what is expected from you. So the impact was something that was always super important to me. Um, and then, as a tech lover, I felt that technology can make things better. I grew up with this notion, and I still do believe in this. And so the combination of impact and love of tech and science, when space become more accessible, and arguably because of amazing entrepreneurs and the overall US ecosystem, and I think a lot of smart people at NASA and a lot of legacy that was incredible from big, large aerospace company. This alchemy in the US is such an inspiring dynamic and ecosystem, which really led me to believe that it was a time with my co-founder to start my first startup. And that was interesting because we basically, as science lovers, were reading everything that was done on the International Space Station, very fascinated by the best science done there. And as we grew, because we're nevertheless entrepreneurs, so we try to solve issues, we try to bring value and again impact. I was quite surprised that even though there's a lot of amazing discovery, besides preparing human space flight to Moon and Mars and trying to see how you live in space, we had a lot of learnings about back on Earth value, and there was not so many back to real experience, real product, real services. And I felt we should be the company working on this. And because when you look at the Maslow pyramid, the first step is feeding yourself. We felt agriculture, especially looking at everything that was done as the research and what we could expect from the space environment to help on the future of food and the future of agriculture back on Earth. That's where we decided to focus on. But the goal of Space Cargo Unlimited was and is to make sure we leverage every possible opportunity that the space environment has to offer to really create products that will be very impactful, meaningful to the future of humanity on Earth. Agriculture is the one we started on. We're looking at other ways to grow what we did in the specific field of viticulture, the vine and wine. And certainly we feel that new materials and overall life science and basically pharmaceutical opportunities are really strong. So working on a different set of other projects there. And that's really what got me to start working with amazing and inspiring company like SpaceX, like Blue Origin, which we both work with, meaning fantastic and inspiring NASA folks as much as European Space Agency, French Space Agency, the German, Luxembourg, Italian space agencies, and an ecosystem and a passion really, which grew strong every day since we started that journey. So Space Cargo mission is to be the operator of choice for what's now called in-space manufacturing. And we've really unfolded this pretty exciting mission called WISE on agriculture and viticulture, which I'll be more than happy to share more about if you wish that now.
Yeah, before we go there, I want to connect a little bit to one aspect of your background that unites both of us, your hospitality background.
Sure,
I
absolutely.
grew up working in restaurants, and I remember when I lived in New York City, I had all these restaurants that I would go on different days of the week. You live in New York. You're not your apartment is only
New York is the best place to do that, right?
a place where you sleep, but everything is outside of your place. And I remember that all these places, but not necessarily because of the quality of the food. Yes, the food has a purpose, obviously, but what was ahead and like on top of that was the human experience, right? The places where you go and then they recognize you, and it feels like everybody knows your name, or it's your own kitchen, and you can have a product that it's not necessarily the best, but with a better human experience, and you're going to go there compared to a place that has an amazing product with a human experience that is not as great, and you will choose the human experience. And even though that, like, I come from a hospitality background and I went into writing and photographing wilderness and nature, and now in space, the connecting dot through all this for me is I've always been in love with the human experience. This connection, this magic that happens when we take those needs, food, lodging, traveling, but then we enhance it and we create these experiences. And space, what gets me so excited is now how we're gonna bring and elevate the human experience to space. And the focus of Orbite is precisely that, right?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, again, here too, I completely abide every single word you used. And so, basically I started Space Cargo Limited in 2014 with Emmanuel, my co-founder, and we started the journey. We had amazing encounters and amazing people. But anyway, one of the defining encounter I had with my friend and now partner on Orbite, Jason Andrews. And basically Jason was running space flight. I actually sent one of the payload we sent were 12 bottles of wine, which went to the space station, to age them on the space station for research purposes. We also made them a valuable asset that we actually partially sold to actually fund the full-scale research we're doing with the European Space Agency, with SpaceX and others, that went through, which is growing vine plants on the space station. And so as we move forward on this, I made Jason, because I had challenges putting my payload and bringing it back. Jason could bring the payload up there, but he couldn't bring it back. So we didn't work together on this, but we really connected well. I really admire I think it's like Emmanuel, my partner on Space Cargo. I think, you have encounters. You see, what unites us are always values. So we had the same love of humanity, the belief that technology and space could bring valuable opportunities for humanity back on Earth. So, but basically growing in a hotel restaurant, and my dad passed away, and I happen to be now the owner with my family of this hotel and restaurant in the southwest of France. Having done every single job, yes, I do share all the elements you shared, which is, an experience, the connection with people. And so I was visiting, we had 3 launches for mission-wise from Space Cargo on the Future of One and Vine. And so I went to Wallop Island for a Cygnus launch, where we launched our bottles to the space station. I went to we had launched with Blue Origin, so I was in West Texas, in the middle of nowhere. I went obviously to Cape Canaveral for our SpaceX launch, and every single time I was shocked. I say, well, this is honestly super functional. There's a military base, there's style set up, which is nothing bad per se, of course, but it's pretty rigorous, and so I was kind of shocked by the contrast between everything along with that. So you have entry level hotels, you have like, I don't know, sex shops. I mean, like live nudes around. You have drugs, and I didn't reconcile that with the aspiration that we all had to put the best of humanity on Earth in space. And so I wasn't reconciling this. Also, the amount of the budget required for anybody to fly to space, it's super expensive. I'm not worried about the fact it will go down. Starship, for instance, SpaceX is an amazing next step for bringing this cost down. And flying started in the 20s with very wealthy people flying. Now it's much more accessible. So anyway, I felt nevertheless you had to reconcile with someone spending $55 million to go into an orbital flight and preparing and being best fitted both from a technical standpoint, but also mental and spiritual standpoint. And I don't think you could do necessarily this in a very average hotel surrounded by live nudes and drugs. I think we needed a better place to do that. We needed to make sure we had indeed the quality of connection. And if I dig further, I realized that most of these amazing company being these vehicles are very vehicle centric, but not people centric. Actually, with my team, with my partner, we attended a launch and a flight, and we were kind of shocked because the flight was perfect. The commercial space flight happened, so the people who bought their tickets went up. But when they came back, there were cameras, and we were in the middle of the space company that operated them, and everybody left, not waiting for looking at how people would coming out of the spacecraft would look like, what they would say, which was to us the most important moment because they've been transformed by this trip. They were, they prepared a lot, and the fact that the entire engineering team and all the staff didn't really pay attention too much to that. Say, well, we're really doing the right thing. We're working on making sure we care for the people. We make them their best prepared again, technically, mentally, spiritually, to enjoy every moment and really, because they take an ownership, they take a responsibility to the one of us who didn't go to space to bring that back to all of us. So anyway, without to be too philosophical, connecting the dots between this hospitality background I had, this set of values, and create a place where people could prep, like the base camp before going to space, became an obsession of mine. And actually find an amazing opportunity with specific land. And as I move forward, talked about the project with Jason. Jason brought his own journey into human space flight, which was from a different angle. With he's very pragmatic, but he also really share the same value. And we discovered we had the same hope to make the best of the human space flight. He brought all his knowledge of the space industry and the way you could work with space operators, and his knowledge of NASA and other key stakeholders. I brought my hospitality background, my obsession for quality of experience. We all merged that together, surrounded ourselves with an amazing team coming from the space industry, like Brie Rones, who had a space flight training, who worked at NASTAR on centrifuge, worked with a lot of people at Virgin Galactic at Blue and know a ton of people in the industry, and worked with a ton of people in the industry. And it's such a knowledgeable, inspiring coach and leader, along with people like Moro as head of sales and marketing coming from the hospitality background. And this is really a very unique mix down to all the rest of the team and the advisory board. It's really half space, half hospitality. And it's a very unique, I think, combination, which we hope to make what we offer, which is preparing you for the space journey, whether you will fly eventually or not. But even if you don't fly, you'll know what it is. You'll understand what it brings you. And we set up this astronaut orientation courses. In 5 days, we give a full overview of what is the space flight experience. And we had people touching the overview effect. We actually had people, and I'm quoting them, where their life transformed with these 5-day courses. We had people who were willing to go to space, but should know exactly what they want now and got a purchase ticket. And we had people that were really curious that learn a lot about themselves and about the human dynamic at play and the challenges of tomorrow and how you can face them. So we feel that that's super powerful, and we continue to do these training. But the most exciting thing, we hopefully will unveil later this year, the specific location we've secured and the place we're going to create moving forward, which is going to be, as I hope, the gateway, the commercial gateway to space, the base camp before going into space.
Well, it's really about celebrating the human experience on Earth, and going to space is just adding on top. It's not at the expense of it. It's not taking away.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the moment of realization, the moment of elevation. Absolutely.
And I'm curious. I can't wait. I mean, maybe you're the company, but the first big hospitality, the big names, right? The Marriott, the Rosewood, the big hotel chain. Who's going to be the first one to?
Well, Daniel, we want to be the first one, and I'll tell you frankly, I think it's not going to be big chain. I mean, I'm the fortunate owner of a boutique hotel, so I really believe in starting with intimate relationship, because even when the price goes down, we'll keep that as a core value. We want to make sure we're close to the people. You very eloquently referred to, restaurants. I mean, obviously, the quality of the food is important, but the combination of quality of the food in a restaurant plus the service. So we want to have the best training with the most knowledgeable space trainers. And again, Bree Romes, our head of space flight training, is amazing. And we also want to make sure we have the best hospitality. And we partnered with Philippe Stark, we designed the most successful hotel in New York, in Miami, in California, all over the country and internationally, to design with all his expertise, experience, an amazing place. And I tell you, he's done a fantastic job. I can't share pictures. I wish I could. I can't share the location. I wish I could, but we'll do so soon. But he brought the little things, the big things, all his expertise of what works, what doesn't work. And again, combine the space knowledge of Jason and Bree with my now bigger space knowledge, along with the one I have from hospitality with Moro and others. We're really getting to the point. I think we have this good match, and we could create a brand that would be the hospitality brand of space, but much more. I mean, I think, as you said, hospitality is not about a place you sleep. It's really a place you really reflect on your life. At least that's the way we see for Orbite. And again, this particular amazing moment of transformation that the space journey is, take the best of it. Whether you go to space or not, and you're going to be really trained, you're going to really experience, meet coaches, live personal, physical, and mental and spiritual experiences that I think can make such a difference in your life. Among the astronaut orientation, again, we had a few people who said that made me reconnect with my younger self, connect with my dreams. I changed my career path. I changed the way I work and interact. I have a better view of the inclusion challenges that we have as humanity, and some said they make a better self through these few days of training. So we want to make sure we nurture that.
I think giving them the framework to process the experience and the information is so crucial. I mean, up to relatively now, going to space has always been more of a functional purpose. You go there, it's all, it's scientific, it's military. You almost, you need people that are not impressed by the ups and downs of around them, because they need to be they need to be astronauts. They need to be able to step away from emotion so that they can be rational and process the moment. But if you don't, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in of being a solo wilderness explorer. Part of the experience of going out by myself is that you start to interact, you start to look at the world around you differently. If you constantly go to nature or to the wilderness with other people, the dynamic happens between you and the people, and nature is barely like a background. But if you got to sit down by yourself and you got to get a perspective that now shows you a different reality, and now you get, okay, now my interaction is between me and the world, and I can see these dynamics and I can see these relationships. It's a total different thing. And as more and more people go up and experience the overview effect, they need to have a framework and a support environment that can help them process information. And a lot of people talk about William Shatner that came down, and how here's someone who's been primed his entire life to see the bigger picture. And he's also an actor, so trained into processing the emotion in the moment. So coming down, I mean, the scene is iconic because you got Bezos, trying to get William Shatner to go with the other people and drink the champagne. And he's like, listen, dude, hold on, let me, like, you're killing my buzz. I'm experiencing something so grand. Another moment of these Blue Origin is when Jeff K went up, and he's more of an engineer mindset, right? He's the one who's been working from the beginning. He's the engineer personality, and he goes up and he comes down, and he's having so much trouble processing what happened. Like, this emotion, the physicality of the experience is so out of his comfort zone that you can see that he's like, he doesn't understand, he doesn't know what to do with that. And I've been talking to a lot of people that went up on Blue Origin, and weeks after, they're still trying to process, so to give it a framework, because no one around.
I love you. I mean, first of all, here too, I really love everything you said, and this is exactly why Orbit exists. This is exactly why Orbit is made, is to make sure when you experience this very intense moment, particularly on the suborbital flight that Blue and Virgin offer, it's really so critical. But I would be. We actually talked also to Inspiration for astronauts. I mean, we have a lot of astronauts working with us and supporting us. We also talk to a lot of astronauts. But even when you go to orbital, the same things apply, Danielle. And certainly that's exactly what's behind us. We want to make sure we really have this right combination. And I should maybe a little more details on what it is we offer. Of course, we will offer eventually an amazing location with all the top, in one place, all the best equipment you can get, from centrifuge, neutral buoyant facility, space food lab, uh, space toilet, space bathroom, everything that is making you space bedrooms, and obviously the best teachers, best coaches, but also individual coaching, individual support, along with some specific experience environment. We'll have mock-ups. We'll have an amazing VR setup, which we already have built and already leveraging. All that in one place, but again, with a coaching that is totally unique. So in this astronaut orientation, which is a 5 days package we created, we give you a pretty good overview of everything. And again, also along with these very individual moments. So let me run down the itinerary. Day one, we are all the guests, 10 people, no more. But it's important, going back to your point, that we have place for intimacy, but also some social interactions. So the Spain people gather. Jason and I welcome them, explain where we are in the space industry dynamics that we experience today. Then we have a dinner and some matchmaking moment just to make sure the group's dynamic is good, in good shape. Then we start early on the second day with Bree going an overview of 3 hours with every single thing, key things you need to know. What is space? How is it structured? What is the story of human space flight? What are the general effects of space on your body and some key routines elements. Then we go into a VR experience we've developed specifically. And again, one of the highlights, according to our guests, which gives you a view of all the vehicles from the outside. Then we did a space food lab where we had different places, different coaches and presenters, but we had a chance to show what it is you eat on the space station, from the day-to-day life to the special meal that exists, along with some medical staff explaining more into details what happened to the body. Then we have a special VIP guest explaining the human spaceflight journey. We had, in that case, for the European one, we had the French head of the French Space Agency. We had some key retired astronauts in the US ones. And then, we actually offer a real full flight cycle with Blue, with Virgin, with Dragon, with Starship. And so we have like a VR headsets set up in a specific environment, and we each of our guests go through a full flight cycle. And that has been so powerful because it's kind of doing this overview. And we had actually a number of our guests systematically experience some elements of the overview effect and comes really shaking, you're crying, but crying in a healthy fashion, I would say, and bring back this memory. Then choose the second day evening, we go over a prep of the third day, which is a full day of zero G flights, where the guests will experience what it is to be weightless. We have special astronaut guests at the end of the third day after the zero G flight. And the fourth day, we have half groups. 5 people do a half day of high G training. We booked some planes to expose to a 6G, 7G, what is really the high G experience. While the other half is meeting astronauts and coaches that are really preparing astronauts to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, to realize what they are, what they can do in the face of adversity, which is super pragmatic and super insightful and in many ways inspiring. And then all throughout these days, we have coaching sessions, and we have a number of coaching sessions that go individually and with groups. That leads to the end of the fourth day, celebration and really making sure we get to the ceremony of these astronaut orientation now alumni, with a 5 day to chill out and really go back to our normal lives. All these community that we're growing is our people that really, again, some will fly, some will not, but all of them look up at the sky differently now, look at themselves differently, and really understood really what is at stake with the space journey as of today, as much as what they can do as humans moving forward. So that's what it is we do, and that's what we want to do more and more. And when we are opening our facility, um, late 24, early 25, we will hopefully will have an amazing place designed by Philippe Stark to make that difference.
I mean, you're really creating these meaningful rituals with space. I think one of the religion background created a lot of rituals about things that were supposed to mean something. Obviously, you're getting food, you're giving grace. And then when our society kind of left that behind a little bit, we left also the rituals, and we took out the sacredness or the importance of these moments. Now we see food just as this input and unaware of the complexity or how the awareness that you should have, when you do eat. And going to space, we're trying now what you're trying to is really to create a ritual that connect the awareness, and where like it's all this ecosystem of connections and feelings. And there's one thing that I want to ask you in particular, because in the social media post, and in all the material from Orbite, one of the things that I see often is around the table, food, meals. And I personally, from campfires to where we are today, food has always been the core of the human experience. And one of the reasons why I think that our relationship with food is different here in North America compared to the rest of the world is because we haven't, I mean, we haven't in North America suffered too much compared to the rest of the world, right? And so we're like immature. We see the food as just like this input of calories. But in the rest of the world, in Europe, every immigrant culture that comes into the country, food is so crucial. It's at the core of their culture. Why? Because when you go through suffering, when you have a history of losing things that you took for granted, when you go through the ups and downs and everything, what are you left with? You're left with bread and the people around you. And if you can sit down and you can share the bread with people around you, then you have hope. And when you do come out of these hardships, then you create these rituals that are important to remind yourself that as long as we can gather around the table and we can share bread, then we can get out of this. And I think that you're making sure that food and the meals are an important part of that experience. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, I'm the son of a chef. I grew up in a restaurant. I own a restaurant, so obviously this is core to me. Uh, Living in the U.S. made me realize that I would respectfully disagree with you. I think there's the same ability to connect around food in the U.S. Maybe indeed there's different variety of food. Some are better than others. But I think when the pioneers were going to Oregon, they would gather around the campfire and share the game they had captured, and I think that was equally powerful. Now there's different culture, but food is everywhere, and I think that ability to connect people and again what you eloquently described is super strong. So yes, I think that we want to make sure that to a degree the connection between people, the food, the environment itself, the entire setup. We want to make sure that the place needs to be beautiful, uplifting, simple, close to earth. In other words, we didn't want to do, and that's actually the briefing we gave to Philippe Stark. We don't do the first space habitat on Earth. We do the last Earth habitat on Earth before you go to space. And so it's a very grounded to key sustainable values. We're really working super hard to be very sustainable in the sense that the hope is that we could dismantle the building and leave the land as it was. We want to make sure we have we're giving zero carbon footprint and generate positive contribution to our environment. And everything is really to the tiny details, working around the choice of materials, the way we gonna cool down the building and the various places. All that is going to be connected to this mission that we believe Earth is fragile, and we want to make sure we use space as a place to really realize that and better connect with fellow humans. So food is definitely part of that connection moment. I would want to add, nevertheless, we're not a religion. We're spiritual. That means we leave everybody choose whatever faith and path they want. What we think, nevertheless, is that to us, spiritual is in a way, again, connecting with other humans, connecting with what is the sense, the purpose, the meaning of all this, and what is our duty to other humans and to Earth and to other species that are the fortune or misfortune to be on Earth with us. Especially in these moments where we're getting closer to realize that we challenge a lot of things around us. I'm currently in the southwest of France. There's massive fires like never seen before. We have heat, temperature, and it's a disaster. And I think unfortunately we need to take action now. It's no longer a moment of talking; it's a moment of action. And as I said, I think that uplifting people, making them realize what we can do, space is a very powerful platform to do so. We also believe, back to my other project, that space has so many things to offer a life on Earth. And that's why I'm really both equally excited about these two ventures. But, Orbite is indeed a great experience, a great project, because it's really very much core to being for and to the people.
Now, we could go on the human experience, and like you were talking, and these things were coming up, but we're getting to. I want to be mindful of your time, and I want to make sure that you get to share also what your recent nomination at Microsoft Azure Space, because that is less about the human experience, but more about the logistic and the functional aspect of space. So what is Azure? What is that division of Microsoft, and what is going to be your responsibility?
So Microsoft is a large tech giant, and the goal of Microsoft, which again I really love because I was compelled to, is empowering every individual and every organization on Earth to achieve more. So if you're a gamer, the goal of Xbox and all the games is to have a better enjoyment. We have two productivity tools, Office, Teams. We have computers, Surface. We have browser product, Bing. We also, and that's been a core component of what the company has been doing for the past 8 years, really, is really seizing the opportunity of the cloud. Cloud being the compute power that the cloud can offer, the processing and the ability to crunch data and provide a variety of businesses, companies, and people new ways of maximizing their technology and tools to do much more. And so this cloud computing is disrupting, is creating so many new opportunities in so many industry. It is also the case for the space industry. And as the space industry send more satellites, more constellation, the data captured thanks to all these satellites can definitely be leveraged by the power of our cloud computing. And when you have an ability to watch and aggregate so many pictures of, let's take Ukraine and the war over there, understand what's happening and bring back useful data, as much as if you can study the rainforest and Amazonia and see what is happening over there, you can take action. Because when you don't know what's happening, you can't take action. When you see what's happening, when you have data, when you crunch the data, you can take a path for resolution. So from sustainable challenges of tomorrow to the business needs of organizing a logistical chain, of knowing how to manage your agricultural assets and where to plant, when to plant, space has so much to offer. And the great dynamic of commercial space today with the desire to go and live on the moon and Mars will require equally this ability to transform. So Azure is our cloud, and Azure Space is the ability to connect our cloud to satellite data collected to the future of human life into space. So it's both supporting the success of SpaceX and Starlink, of many great space company, down to providing government, providing businesses meaningful data information that only space can capture for back on Earth real usage and impact to people. So we built this technology, and I was brought in to make sure we bridge the gap between this great technology and the needs of businesses, governments, public services around the world. So one of the key product that we have is a ground station on every data center that we have around the world, and we have many of them all over the world. We're building antennas that can capture any signal coming from any satellite, any constellation, process real time in our data centers, and provide meaningful output to people leveraging this data for action. So again, commercial, business, government, public services of many kinds. And this is really one of the key goal that we have with Microsoft, is to make sure we leverage the technology and this power to empower more people and make a difference on people and human life on Earth. So that is an exciting mission. And as I said, I've been fortunate that Microsoft let me be an entrepreneur as much as help and support them in these amazing engineering marvel that Microsoft is able to produce and create.
Well, this seems to be an exciting time in your life with all these different flavors, not just the human experience, but also the cloud, the infrastructure, and with Space Cargo Unlimited, you have all these different flavors that are creating this dish that is super interesting. Now, if people want to find you, I know that you're on LinkedIn, and we'll put all the links for Orbite and the social media and Azure Space and Space Cargo also. Can you share with us just briefly before we end when can we expect more? Either fit it start, but more news and developments on the Orbite side.
Well, we hope to announce this year. We will announce this year. When is pending a variety of partners we're working with, but stay tuned. It will be announced soon. Very exciting location. A lot of exciting image we'll be able to share about the location we're planning to build. We will continue to do some training like the one I described, astronaut orientation, ahead of our opening. So also check out our website, orbitespace.com, for more information on this and to register and be part of it. We have a very, very fulfilling experience. So it has a cost. But as we move forward, we're going to, especially with our facility opening, we'll have a variety of costs to make sure it's accessible to anybody. Down to more exclusive experience for people willing to see what is an orbital flight and go deep into their training. We really are very eager to do this very, very strong coverage of every single opportunity for people to know more about space.
Nicolas, are you going to go to space?
I'd love to. Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Make sure when we go, you and I will go, and then we'll make sure that we have a nice bottle of wine either before we go or when we're up there. But wine is definitely going to be part of the equation.
Perfectly. I mean, I really agree with you. It's an interesting thing because alcohol is forbidden on the International Space Station. There's still quite a few challenges in bringing alcohol to space. But I think that if there's anybody interested in the topic, you should read a great book by my friend Chris Carberry on alcohol in space, which is a really good book to read to understand. I think what this could be. But good food, good wine, absolutely. I'm with you on this, Daniel.
Well,
thank you so much for having me.
Alcohol has always been something that we've managed to bring along and figure out how to make everywhere that we go. So space is not going to be different. We'll figure out how to make alcohol in space. Nicolas, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I look forward for a path to cross.
Thank you so much, Daniel.